folks. Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to Debate the News on this 8th of March 2025, Women's Day. So we have a special show today planned for each and every one of you. And we got some special co-hosts and moderators today, folks. And I'm looking forward to it. So with that being said, let's jump into it. I don't want to belabor it some. Hey, if you guys are following us and listening to us at home, make sure you guys are sharing this podcast with each and every one of your friends and family. Hey, and if you're in the audience, make sure you guys are following us and listening to us on the platform. With that, welcome to Debate the News, folks. Oh, wow. Guys, this is not my plan. You know what I'm going to do? Mekey, are you there?
I am here, Jonathan.
I'm going to turn this over to you tonight, Mekey. Let's do it.
Awesome sauce. Happy International Women's Day. Thank you so much, Jonathan, for that awesome intro. I just wanted to start this very special podcast with all women mods, plus a few of the fellas, with just a little bit of financial history. Does anyone know that it was only 51 years ago that the right for a single woman or a married woman to get a credit card or a mortgage without a male cosigner was passed in 1974, the Equal Credit Opportunity Act, or the ECOA of 1974. So, ladies, have we come a long way? Before this, banks and credit card companies often required, get this, women to have a husband or a male relative. Can you imagine getting your brother to co sign on a loan with you, even if you made more money than him, regardless of income? So, shout out to this, ladies. Now, we are doing it for ourselves. And here's a fun fact: single women actually own more homes than single men. So, fellas, y'all are a little bit behind, but that's okay. Final facts, ladies. The great wealth transfer, which is estimated to be $70 trillion when the baby boomers retire. Shout out to the boomers for paving the way. All those great 401ks and pension funds. Guess what? 70% of that money is expected to fall into the hands of the ladies. Why? We also tend to live a little bit longer than the fellas. Sorry, fellas. Although married men do tend to live a little bit longer than the single fellas. So, guess what? We are going to redefine a lot of what is traditionally known in economics and finance. So, toast to you, ladies. Let's look forward to spending and investing some of that money. Thank you so much, Jonathan. Let's get this set off, ladies. Who is next on this very special International Women's Day?
Well, I
Thanks for
did
that,
want to
Mickey.
say,
Go ahead. Was that Vashon?
no, it was Makeda. I just wanted to say thanks, Nikki, for sharing that information because I did learn a bit about that, but it's nice to hear more details about how women have gotten new rights in the past 50 or so years. My grandmother, she must have been in her 20s when that happened, so I can only imagine what that felt like for her. But take it away, Daphne.
Oh, no, no, no. I was just passing the mic over. Just I wanted to tell, just let her know that she had done a good job. That's all.
Yeah, thank you for that, Makita, because it is so crazy. My grandmother, I remember, because I'm from a very small town in southern Louisiana. Shout out to Lafayette and Opelousas. She also had a home, and I remember that it was highly unusual at that time. So shout out to all those ladies that kind of did it a little bit of a different way, and shout out to the ladies that are doing it a little bit different now. We definitely have a lot to celebrate. There's a lot that's going on. Does anyone else have a particular share or want to give a shout out?
I would love to hear from Daphne and like as a woman doing business, what it's like, women's stories. I love the idea of hearing about them and from the men too, women especially, tonight, women that have impacted your life.
Listen, people hear from me all the time on here. I want to hear some other voices tonight.
I'll jump in. So, of course, we want to mention the female pioneers in African American history. Got to do that. We can't forget Harriet Tubman, Sojourner Truth, Rosa Parks, Madam C.J. Walker, and Shirley Chisholm. If you have not seen the Shirley Chisholm documentary, I'm sorry, movie, you need to definitely check that out. And you can't forget Madam C.J. Walker, one of the first female millionaires in these Americas. I mentioned it earlier. I have to give it up to the women in my life that allowed me many opportunities in the music industry. My first tour management gig was given to me by a female. My opportunity to work in the education field, I was hired by a female principal who gave me a shot. And of course, can't forget my mom, who I watched just continue her education later in life while I was a child, watching her on a typewriter. I'm dating myself, but of course, watching her complete paperwork and pursuing her aspirations to complete her bachelor's degree at a time when it wasn't common. She had me later in life, so shout out to that. I almost didn't make it. So yeah, she had me at almost 40 years old, which was unheard of. They told her she was crazy. So I'm glad she did what she did, and I'm here today. And also just what she's instilled in us, as far as hard work, dedication, and of course education is the key. I have to say, women, I mentioned it earlier, you guys hold the most master's degrees in this country and probably the most PhDs. I don't understand anybody that would try to hate on a woman, stop a woman, because she gonna get where she got to get and do what she has to do to secure food on the table. So I take those ideologies and those feelings and just all of that, and I make sure that I march on. We as men, we have a way of making things happen uh, by any means necessary. But I would not have that mentality if it weren't for the women in my life. So, shout out to you guys and happy Women's Day and happy International Women's Month. Let's go.
Thank you so much for that, Divine. And Shirley Chisholm. Yes, Shirley Chisholm, the first Black woman to run for president of these United States, since we just had Kamala Harris as well. Kamala Harris, not my sorority sister. She is an AKA. Shout out to Zeta Phi Beta, my sorority. Love the mama shout outs. Can we get more mama shout outs? Shout out to my mama. But Adrienne, you are up next. And I hear you want to shout out your mama too.
Thank you so much. So happy Saturday night. I wish I had all the money in the world so I could give it away. Words from Gloria Barker. When I miss my parents, my mom and dad, my mom's name always went first, Gloria and Herbert Barker. I get to Google them to see the amount of love that they have given the artwork, over $2.5 million of artwork donated to Connecticut hospitals, South Florida hospitals. My mom was instrumental after 911 to make sure that all the police departments and fire departments received a piece of beautiful artwork valued at $1,000 each, with a beautiful plaque thanking them for their services. And that was a Statue of Liberty. It was called Statue of Liberty from Melanie Taylor Kent. My parents were just amazing. My mom and dad, my mom passed before my dad. They were 2 months shy of their 70th wedding anniversary. They just gave and gave love. Over 150 employees, 5 art galleries, one of the largest promotional products company in the United States, and left a legacy that I don't know who else has left, the 80,000 curated toys in Cheshire, Connecticut, the Barker cartoon character and comic museum, and that is their gift to all of us. And so thank you. My mom, just amazing. I appreciate the ability to shout her out, and I know that she's looking down at me. So thank you so much.
That is so awesome, Adrian. And I love that you inherited just a philanthropic mindset, because I believe that women are actually just a little bit more giving than the fellas. No offense, fellas. So I love that you were able to speak into that. And women in the arts, I think that that is so, so, so very powerful. So thank you so much for that share. All right, y'all are gonna start making me call on folks like we did in class. I'm gonna throw it back to Daphne, because Daphne, I have some questions for you. You are in real estate, correct?
And Credit came up on stage too. I'm curious if
Daphne's a little
Credit is
busy.
here.
All right, let's throw it to Credit. Credit, can you intro yourself, and then can you tell us, especially, how much you think this game has changed for the ladies?
Okay, I
Credit.
see nurse.
Credit's a little
Who's
busy as well.
shy?
How about let's do it this way? Who is willing to share and who is ready to share for International Women's Day? Just come off mic.
Louise,
I'm gonna share,
I
Mekey.
you go for it.
you
Go
say
I'm
for
gonna
what?
it.
I
share.
saw Laura
Is
Rochelle.
Laura trying to
Yeah,
talk?
let Rochelle go. Let Rochelle go.
No, Laura, you can go. I think.
No,
Okay.
you go.
Can you
You
ladies
go,
hear?
girl.
All
We're gonna
right.
have a
Look.
girl. Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So, I'm gonna shout out to my mom on this day because my mom was she didn't finish grade school, but somehow she became a nurse. I don't know how that worked out, how that happened back then, but she was most respected in hospital settings. Doctors would listen to her quite often. But my mother was a firecracker from Lafayette, Louisiana. Married my dad, a walking tall Texan, and that's how we ended up being in Houston. But she predicted my life, and my mother and my dad said I was her two-bit change and what have you, because I was always the protector, the one who fought for everyone, the one with like, mother, why are you speaking to them that way? So, she would say, George, I keep telling her I'm the mother and she's the daughter. She needs to stop telling me what to do instead of my business. So I was a little spunky from the beginning of birth, I guess. But my mother predicted my life. I thought I was going to be a pediatrician and an accountant. That's how overly ambitious I was as a student growing up. And my mother was like, "No, you're gonna be in the White House one day. You're gonna work in politics." I'm like, "I'm not doing any of that. No, I'm not doing that." Turns out this is exactly what I started doing: working in Congress, working in politics, always advocating and fighting, holding voter registration drives, the whole 9 yards, and what have you. And so she passed away before she could see the full circle totality of what she actually predicted and what have you. But yeah, so I shout out to her. And then for myself, there are women that I have studied, have had the blessing of working with and meeting in my lifetime that impacted my life. So I created this do it yourself kind of piece of art where I took like a picture of each one of these women, put it in a frame, put all of them together in the middle of the frame. I put our the poem by Marianne Williamson called Our Deepest Fear. And basically that poem kind of speaks about not being afraid to shine, not being afraid to lead. And when you do so, you unconsciously give other people, i.e. other women, the opportunity to do the same or the courage to do the same. So on this mosaic I created, you had Barbara Jordan, which I had the blessing of being able to meet in my lifetime. Also, I was selected and attended her funeral. And then you had Hillary Clinton. Of course, I've worked with, met, have done a lot of great things for. And then you had Shirley Chisholm, to whom, of course, I never met because I was, young, a baby when she was born, when she was, doing her thing. But my former boss, Congressman Lewis, he entered me into congressional record for my service. And he said, Rachelle has the spirit of Barbara Jordan in the fire of Shirley Chisholm. And, I have the blessing of being able to work and do things in the various area that she herself did things. And then you also had people like Oprah Winfrey and Michelle Obama on the other sides of that mosaic with the poem in the middle, and I've had the opportunity to meet and do things with both of them. And then you had Ruby Dean, Gloria Steinem, and Cicely Tyson. And again, in my lifetime, I've had the blessing of being able to work with and meet all of them. And the one that endeared me, not the most, but more intimately that I got to spend really good time with was Gloria Steinem. And I thanked her for what she did, for women as she was, doing her thing and what have you. So yeah, those are the women that impacted me. And in my lifetime, I envisioned, how they would, help train me as a young woman, and then had the blessing at some point in my life being able to meet every last one of them, except for um show autism. So yeah, thank you to women and everything that we do and continue to do. The younger generation, how we look at, listen to, study, and see what women have done before us, so that we can continue to move the needle to benefit not just ourselves but benefit a whole community. because when we succeed, everybody succeed. And that's it.
Thank you so much for that share, especially since we just saw a historic run by a female candidate for president, who was the first African American and Asian president or vice president. And before we go to Laura and Louise, Skald, do we have the dateline for International Women's Day? While we're getting,
I've been working on one. Are we doing a regular episode of Debate the News? I thought we were
Yeah, we're
talking
doing the
about.
thing. Go ahead, Skull. Jump in here. This is the time. You're doing a great job.
Wait, no. What are we doing? Are we doing a regular
Yeah, do you
DTF?
have do you have a date, do you have a dateline ready, sir?
Yeah, I can get one. I've got one. Give me a
That'd be
minute here.
awesome. Thank
thank
Yeah.
you.
you, sir.
Yep.
Focus on the ladies, by the way, when you get that dateline. I'm sure there's lots of phenomenal women in the news. Back over to you. You're doing a great job.
Oh, awesome, Sauce. Are we going to hear that now, or you're going to be ready a little bit later?
Absolutely.
All right, well, let's go on in the meantime. Laura, the phenomenal, awesome sauce. Laura, I know you have some great shares. I'm throwing to you.
Oh, thank you. A couple things here. One is because I'm a stats person. So I was looking at, as I was listening to Rochelle, I was looking at some of the up and coming women and just some of the facts around entrepreneurship. Women are 91% likely to be fulfilled by owning their own business. So 91% of current female business owners feel professionally fulfilled versus 55% if you're a non-owner. So women are basically twice as likely to be fulfilled by jet setting out on their own. So hats off to all the entrepreneurs in the room. And many women are juggling, right? You've got your passion, your business is a side hustle, and you're still working and doing a full-time job or a part-time job to help take care of yourself and your family. So hats off to female business owners and females juggling because females do we just do a better job of juggling. It's just the fact. Women can multitask better than men. Not that I'm making this a women and men thing at all, because I believe in all genders and diversity. But some of the trailblazing female founders out there are waiting for the dateline. This was kind of interesting. I didn't know about some of these. Christina Junqueira, co-founder of Nubank, Brazil's digital banking giant, has propelled the company to a $50 billion valuation, 114 million clients. Lindsay Kaplan, a co-founder of Chief, a network designed for senior executive women, Kaplan has fostered a community that reached $1 billion in valuation swiftly. Anna Mekey's leading this is so interesting. I can't wait to potentially meet her, interview her. Neuroelectrics. Marquise is at the forefront of non-invasive brain stimulation technologies, aiming to treat neurological disorders and exemplifying women's pivotal role in cutting-edge medical innovations. I'm not going to go on too much, but the momentum of women breaking barriers and leading transformative initiatives is undeniable. This is obviously being added by AI. Their contributions not only drive economic growth, and I'm going to go off the cuff now, but it's just the fact when we have diversity around the table and women, we have a certain amount of higher level of emotional intelligence and empathy that is just cultivates a great culture in the work environment and personal environment. So back to you guys.
Thank
So
you,
well
Laura.
said, Laura.
Oh, go ahead. Whoever was next, please go ahead and share. Laura, I just wanted to say thank you so much for mentioning that because we all know about the difference in the hippocampus. I'm probably mispronouncing that, and the hypothalamus, the way that women and men aggregate and disaggregate information. And you're absolutely right because I'm a corporate America baby, 30 years. And, the way that we can perhaps look at problems a little bit different based upon our own experience. Ladies, I think that's actually our superpower, right? because we're actually able to migrate in and out of spaces, right? And we're not going to pick on the fellas, but let's just say maybe that may be male dominated, such as my space, which is I'm in finance, and maybe just bring a new little lens to see things. And thank you so much for those examples. Neuroelectricity, neuroelectric. Now that sounds a little bit fascinating. I'm not going to be volunteering for that anytime soon, but that sounds awesome sauce. Louise, are you ready to give your share? And then I would love to pick your brain about how you think that um, real estate and a lot of this newfound financial independence for women is somewhat changing the landscape there.
Most definitely. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you, awesome sauce.
Perfect, perfect. Yeah, man. So everybody giving a shout out to their moms. I got to give a shout out to mine. She's the reason why I'm an entrepreneur. She's the reason why I never set a limit to my overall potential and trading my time for money. Because as long as you trade time for money, you'll always have a limit of the money in your life. Um, my mom was a pioneer in many many ways. She took on every opportunity to start a business, run a business, manage people, all the while managing three kids. So shout out to my moms. But on top of that, just the amazing women from art and literature, such as Maya Angelou. Maya Angelou was one of the huge inspirations to why I became a poet, and led on to teach people how to write poetry all throughout New York City as a teacher. Um, uh, yeah, man, like I'm not gonna lie to you, women to me are trailblazers in many respects in many different industries, and the fact that they were held out of so many different industries because men knew the potential that they had, to me is wild. Knowing that we haven't gone as far as we should to give them the opportunities, to create spaces for them to flourish, to me is still a little bit wild. Knowing that, the reason why I truly believe any man has achieved his greatest like levels in life is because he's either trying to inspire a woman or trying to catch a woman's eye. So shout out to all the great women out there inspiring us men to step up to the plate and to be who we're destined to be. And shout out to you women who persist regardless of the positions that you're put in, because an opportunity delayed is not an opportunity denied. So shout out to all of you for continuing to push forward, in spite of all the things that are holding you back.
I love that so much, especially since we've been talking about a lot of women founders, as Laura shared, and entrepreneurs. What do you think specifically that it was that your mom taught you that led you to that mentality and that mindset? Because I find that so important. Typically, we don't really hear about women being entrepreneurs, at least back in the day. And now we find that, for example, Black women in particular were amongst the highest demographic of individuals that opened a new business. And when I say open a new business, they went through the formal process during the Biden administration, which, by the way, guys, there were so many entrepreneurs during that time that the number of individuals that worked in America that were working age, it went from about our working 9 to 5s, it went from about 95% to a little under 88%. So shout out to you guys that are entrepreneurs. Because Louise, you are a fabulous entrepreneur. So what do you think that your mom did specifically in that regard?
Well, I'll tell you, my mom taught me this quote by John D. Rockefeller that says, I would rather trade 1% of 100 people's energy than trade 100% of my own. She often leaned on the knowledge and gleaned from the knowledge of the people around her that was successful. Um, and she refused to allow other people to determine her absolute value. So when I really really like started paying attention, because I was just like, why does my mom do this and this and this and have two jobs and still does this and take on this opportunity? She joined MLM. She done everything out of the box, out of the sorts, selling products, sewing clothes, anything that she could do to provide income and to provide a possible opportunity to become a multimillionaire, because that was her aspiration, right? And I think she didn't shoot high enough, right? I think if she would have shot to be a trillionaire, she would have made several billions. But honestly, it was the fact that she wasn't scared to fail. My mom failed often, failed quickly, and got over it so damn quickly that we never recognized the true failures, and we just saw it as an opportunity, right? All these opportunities became stepping stones to what I now see as a potential future, right? As somebody in the real estate field, and why I'm not disappointed by rejection or whatever it is. I just the more no's is the closer I get to a yes, and it's because my mom always believed that when there's a will, there's a way. So as long as I had a will to succeed, as long as she had a will to make something better of herself, she always could. So it was honestly that.
Oh, I love that so much. And that seems like such old-fashioned advice, right? Where there's a will, there's a way. But, and this is going to fall in line perfect with you. And do you mind giving just a little bit of background, Louise? Because where there's a will, there's a way. I know you talk a lot about the digital footprint and digital offerings in regards to real estate. And ladies, we're still focusing on International Women's Day because after I ask Louise's question, then we're going to talk specifically about maybe just a few tips because y'all know I'm an educational person, right? We can celebrate, but we also got to inform. I do think that is what we are called to do. Just throwing in a little bit of what I was taught by my grandmother, my great grandmother, and my mother. To him whom given much is required, right? So we're gonna get some information from the best of the best here. So how do you think that that's going to fall in specifically for women, Louise? Do you think that that's going to be an advantage as we combine the digital landscape and real estate, or a disadvantage?
So just so I can understand your question in its truest sense, reframe it for me if you could.
Yes. So this there's a will, there's a way. I think that technology has provided so many more inroads for women, especially as we come into 2025, that would not have been available to us otherwise, especially with my intro about women in 1974 being able to set up their own credit cards and their own mortgages without banks or credit card companies requiring a cosigner. So, in that regard, because I know you talk a lot about um, like the crypto, which I'm putting that all into the digital space. How do you think that that is going to improve or make it harder for women to get into real estate with all of these new technological advancements and offerings?
Well, honestly, I think it's only going to continue to open more doors, right? One of the things that were mentioned earlier, one of the women in the room mentioned women's ability to multitask, right? And it really kind of brings about your greatest aspirations of being attained by the new technologies that are out there. The intersectionality of both the physical world and the digital world. I don't think we have the limitations that people set on us as long as we continue to see the possibilities that are out there, right? People see artificial intelligence as something like a boogeyman that's out there, but I honestly believe that the people that will prosper the most from this new found technology that's now within reach of people are women, right? Because they can kind of bypass the traditional roadblocks or the traditional gatekeepers that would often keep them out of opportunities, right? Um, so I think the world is your oyster now more than ever, because you get to create, design, implement, and scale anything and everything that you want to do, and you don't have to ask for permission, right? Too often in time, we've accepted a no from somebody not qualified to give us a yes. And I think you as women don't have to wait like at all anymore for anything. And I think collaborative effort and getting out of a competition mindset, I think it's not just something that we can prosper in as human beings, but especially as women. If you ladies unite in any respect or with any respect to any interdisciplinary course of action that you take, I honestly don't feel like anything can hold you back. You make up on the majority of the world.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much,
Luis.
Valerie. Oh, and go ahead. Who had a question?
Oh no, it's Makita. It's not a question. I did just want to say, I believe you're 100% right because there used to be a lot of doors that we had to knock on and just kind of stand and wait for someone to open. But with technology and all the new opportunities, there's so many different things that we can do. And looking at, how much the different industries have grown. If we look at tech alone and software engineering, web design, development, things like that, the amount of women that are in those fields, it's a very small percentage. I don't have the exact number, but the door is not closed to us. We're able to learn new skill sets, use technology, and even become business owners, or use those skill sets in business, whether it's on a small scale or a large scale, to help our community locally and international. So I did just want to, jump in on that point because I realized that my grandparents, my grandmother is in her 70s, and she has seen so many different things. Like we talked about Mekey in the beginning, she's one of the women that in her 20s, she could not get her own bank account. She did have to rely on my grandfather. And, my great great grandmother, um, she couldn't buy her own home. It was my great great grandfather who had to buy the home. So, having the same level of opportunity that I have now, where I'm self taught in web design development, and I've been able to, work for large and small organizations. This is something that they didn't have the opportunity to do, but just in what you're saying, the door is not closed, it's open. Even when we're talking about politics, whatever we dream of, whatever we think of, we can tap in, we can learn, and we can just keep moving forward. So I just want to, jump in and say that as well.
No, I love that behind Louisa's share because, we're not well represented in tech, right? We have a very, very small minority of women. In fact, we dominate in the typical industries such as the service industry, such as teaching. But the fact that you, Makeba, referencing what your grandmother and your great grandmother could not do, and referencing how you were kind of self taught in that regard, and you absolutely, right, can do a lot of the things that they couldn't. I think that is just awesome sauce and a testament to the strength and the resilience of the ladies, right? A lot of these things that we are doing today are hard fought pretty much in the hands of our ancestors. So I just want to give a shout out to them. Shout out to all of the grandmothers in the past, the great grandmothers, right? Even the grandfathers and the fathers and the uncles and all of the men that supported these women on these journeys, so that we can tell these beautiful, beautiful stories and these lovely shares, especially loving the shares about the moms. And Luis, my final question for you, thank you so much, is what is the best advice that you could give to a young lady who is going to purchase a home? What is one thing that she should look out for? Thank you so much.
You were breaking up a little bit from my respect. You said what's one point of advice? I'm sorry.
Yes, because I'm talking with my hands over here, but I'm going to do that over to the side. What is one good piece of advice that you can give to a young lady that is seeking to purchase her first home?
You don't need 20% down to buy a house. All you need is 3.5% down, and there's plenty of programs out here that can give you anywhere from 15 to $100,000 that other people and people don't you know
Luis,
that's it.
Miki, can you
It's
hear me?
simple. Mhm.
Yes. Oh, Luis is in the Matrix. I was wondering if that was me. Luis, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, you sound a little bit better now. Can you dial it back about 20 seconds? You were in the Matrix.
Yes. Yes, no problem. Just let me know if I clock out. I said my piece of advice to any woman in the room is one, you don't need 20% down and perfect credit to buy a house. You need as little as a 580 credit score, and the government, municipalities, non for profits can give you anywhere between $15,000 to $100,000 to purchase your very first property. Buy a 4 unit property and let other people pay off your dreams and help you qualify for the house. Point blank, period. Don't wait for nothing.
Thank you so much for that, Luis, because we mentioned how things are done conventionally and traditionally, and I think that that advice is definitely unconventional. So, ladies, the workarounds. I love that piece of advice that was given, right? When we're doing things a little bit differently because we are delving into areas we have not been in the past, sometimes our path is not going to be that which was considered the most traditional, right? So, I love that we're kind of bringing up things that ladies are doing differently, that we're still going to end up at the same result, right? But we don't have to go the more traditional and conventional way. And I believe that Danielle, are you in the house that you had a question you wanted to pose to the room?
Yeah, I don't know. I think Skull is also ready for his dateline, so we can go to him after. But Makita, you're doing great, and I'm loving everybody's share so far. This has been eye opening for me, and I guess the question that I want to pose is for those women that are on stage right now and that are raising young women. What is that, ultimate legacy that you would want to leave them?
Well, I will jump in on this. I have two daughters. This is Makeda speaking. I have two daughters. They are 11 and 16. And for me, the ultimate legacy that I have been working my entire life and will continue to work to leave them is that they can be the woman, the wife, and the mother that they desire to be. And what that means is that there are no barriers. There's nothing that can stop them from being all that they can be. So in the woman's space, it is being a woman of integrity, the woman that, regardless of what it is that they want to do, whether it's in business or social, and for themselves, they are able to do it. There is no ceiling. In regards to wife, is if they want to be married, that they can fully do that and be the woman. And if they want to be a mother, then they are able to do all those things, and do it in a way that makes them happy and contributes to their lives, in their sphere, but also understanding that their impact, it doesn't just touch the ones that they see, but it goes on for generations and it touches the world because we do live in a global economy. We live in a global world. And I've referenced my grandparents, right, many times here. I only have one grandparent left, and I cherish her, but I pay attention to the fact that everything that those who came before me, everything that they did, it makes me who I am today. And so I know what I'm capable of doing, and I'm passing that along to my girls. I'm letting them know that they don't have to be limited. They don't have to choose either or. They just have to figure out how it works for them and what that looks like. And today, as women, we're able to work in the home and out the home and still be at either a corporate level, or an entrepreneur, or if they want, they can stay home and they can actually do all those things at the same time, as I have. So, um, yeah, that's the footprint that I'm leaving, and I hope to leave them, great businesses and properties and a lot. I'm not quite middle aged yet, but again, you hear the ages of my children, so that's legacy. And I've written books. I've had businesses. We've done a lot of different things. So I see, in my girls how they believe and how they know what they're able to do. and I hope to continue to write that legacy. So hopefully I answered your question.
Makeda, no, you definitely did. That was beautiful, and you're leading that way for sure. And I think Patrice has her hand up, and I think she wants to answer that question too, right, Patrice?
I do. I know I'm not in here often, but thanks for recognizing me. I'm Patrice. At this stage, I have a 28-year-old daughter. And so what I want to leave for her legacy wise, I want her to know the women of this family. I want her, and she grew up knowing her grandmother. She grew up knowing both of her grandmothers. And both of her grandmothers lived through the civil rights movement. And so she has seen the strength that they have carried forward in raising families. She's seen the strength that our mothers instilled in us. I have three sisters, and to some degree, we're all entrepreneurs. And so she gets to see what that is. But most importantly, I really want to make sure that she understands and that I have been a good example because God knows we make mistakes as parents, but that I have been an example and continue to be an example to her of what it looks like to be comfortable in your own skin, what it looks like to extend grace to yourself and extend grace to others, what it looks like to understand what it is you bring to the table as a coworker, as a boss, as a wife, as a mother, as a friend, and that she really can walk in what her power is. And at 28, she is so much further along in what that journey is than I was at 28. And I just, I want her to know that failures are the things that happen, that eventually lead you to the successes that you have in life, and not be afraid to fail and learn how to recover from what those failures are. But also in doing that, being able to open up her heart to whomever it is, and that they accept each other as partners, they accept each other as friends, and they offer each other the space to be safe, to know that they're loved, to know that they're seen, and know that they're heard. So I think that's what I've got, Danielle. Thanks for letting me share.
Patrice, that was beautiful, and you know how much you mean to me, and how much of a kind of a motherly figure you are to me. So I absolutely love that share. Nurse Cher, did you want to share in the question that I had asked?
Not to the question that you had asked, but just like kind of, I guess, a general response
Please,
about
yeah,
women.
definitely, please do, and then we'll go to Skull with the Dateline.
Awesome. So I'm going to start off with a quick fact. Claflin University was founded in 1869. It's the oldest historically black college in South Carolina, and it's also the first institution of higher education to welcome all students, regardless of race, gender, religious, or ethnic origin. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because I mentioned the International Women's Day to my mom, and she reminded me that my great great grandmother, Elizabeth Riley, actually graduated from Claflin College in 1897. And she went on to become a teacher, and she lived to be 104 years old. And it just totally empowered me to hear that and be reminded that I come from such a long line of exemplar women that have really set a course that a lot of people didn't know was even possible at the time that it was done. In terms of my family and the women that inspire me, just to give a little about my background, I am a nurse by trade, and I've learned that true strength comes from the ability to adapt, prioritize, and grow. As a bedside nurse during the first modern day pandemic, I witnessed the vulnerability of humanity, but I also saw incredible resilience that we all have as people. And the pandemic really pushed me to rethink my priorities as a woman, especially when it came to my family, as it was expanding during the pandemic. And I shifted to biotech, not only to secure a future for my loved ones, but also to expand on the breadth of my nursing journey. And Growing up, I was so inspired by my mom's unwavering dedication to our family. She was a woman of many talents. She held a real estate license, she had a degree in psychology. She was actually a dental hygienist while my dad was in med school. And her greatest achievement to me was her choosing family, because while my dad was in his residency, she decided to stay home with us and really just pour into us. She ensured that we grew up as self-reliant and empathetic individuals. She gave us the tools to navigate the world with really strong moral compasses and collaborative spirits. So her sacrifices taught me the importance of being adaptable and the value of education. In my mid-teens, she actually went back to school and got a master's degree in economic development, or actually a master's in business administration, but it was especially specializing in economic development. So that helped me to realize, once I became a nurse later on, that with all its power to heal, I could reach even farther if I combined my clinical experience with the knowledge that my parents imparted in me. And every step I've taken through the halls of hospitals and in biotech has really been driven by a single belief. The world needs more people who care deeply, people who make tough decisions with compassion, and people who are not afraid to evolve. So many things have changed since the pandemic, but it just reminded me that the heart of healthcare, family, and life itself is the constant commitment to growth and the courage to change for the better. And that's possible because of the women in my life, not only my mom, but all the women that were born and lived through everything they had to live through with careers and family and everything in between, so that I could be here doing what I'm doing. So thank you to the long line of women in my family on International Women's Day.
That was beautiful, Nurse Cher. That much appreciated. Thank you so much. Skald, are you there?
I am here.
Please share the news dateline, please.
Okay, folks, I'm going to do a little bit of a modified dateline here. It is the 8th of March and International Women's Day. Welcome to Debate the News. We do still have things happening throughout the country here. We do have, most notably, a catch and revoke AI program, which is now scanning foreign students that are protesting on behalf of Palestine against Israel. A program called Catch and Revoke by the U.S. State Department to try to scan their faces, find them, and revoke their student visas. Additionally, ProPublica says Housing and Urban Development may trial cryptocurrency for grants and payments, yet another movement towards a crypto golden age. President Trump has proposed a 250% tariff on milk going to Canada. Well, folks, Canada puts their milk in bags. That is not a joke. Look it up. And moving on to one last piece of news before we get to the International Women's Day, of course. The Justice Department has dropped a lawsuit against a Louisiana petrochemical plant accused of poisoning, and I mean, that's the headline here. But as we know, there can also be chemicals coming from these kind of plants into a majority African American neighborhood. And the Department of Justice says that it was a DEI lawsuit. So that's interesting news there that we can debate. But moving on to International Women's Day, we had events across not just America, but across the entire globe. There were organizers in Turkey who were protesting for women's rights and the reinstatement of domestic violence. Once again, making domestic violence a crime in Turkey is what they are asking for after it was overturned in 2021. Russia had similarly decriminalized, it is now a fine to engage in domestic violence against women in Russia. However, the Russian International Women's Day consisted of no protests, only soldiers handing out flowers to women in St. Petersburg Square. Very nice. It would also be nice if perhaps Russia protected its women. Moving on, we had many other European countries openly protest for women's rights. We had a Million Woman March in London. We had activists in Poland. We had activists in Madrid, Spain. We had activists throughout Paris, France. Of course, Paris has no. They will protest at the drop of the hat. We had protests and singing and an entire stadium filled with celebration in Nigeria's capital of Lagos. Lastly, we have similar protests or movements occurring throughout Latin America as well, in Ecuador as well as in Bolivia, calling for justice for women, protection for women, and just women openly asserting their rights. You love to see it. And moving on, in some news that's very close to my heart, I just want to talk about female founders in venture capital. As you guys know, I work in venture capital, and I just want to call out a few. First, the list is Cowboy Ventures. This was founded by Eileen Lee. She invested in several what became billion-dollar companies. And in the venture capital world, folks, we refer to a billion-dollar company as a unicorn, right? That's like Facebook or Instacart, things like that. It becomes $1 billion. All the early investors make lottery ticket level money, ideally, and everyone's very happy. And actually, Eileen Lee coined the phrase unicorn. That is right. A woman venture capitalist is the one who created the phrase unicorn that is now widely used in the venture capital industry. We also have Fearless Fund, which is an Atlanta, Georgia based pre seed and seed fund that invests very heavily in women of color who are founding businesses. And so, this is a doubly underserved market. Firstly, you need to understand that even though women make up 50% of the population, they are less than 10% of venture capitalists' investments. And it's something that many venture capitalists are working to correct now that reports have come out and we have seen that women are not getting the investments men are getting. And here's why it's such a bad idea, folks. If you look at Fortune 500, the 43 female-led companies of the Fortune 500, women-led companies, actually outperform the remaining companies in the Fortune 500. So there's definitely a case to be made from an investment standpoint that you want to invest in women. Fearless Fund, as I said, the Female Founders Fund, of course, based out of New York, obviously invests in women. And three last mentions: 1843 Capital, based in San Francisco, and of course 500 Startups, which is a very big venture capital firm. These are all not just venture capital firms focused on investing in women, but they are also founded by women. And the last mention would be Serranus. Serranus is a venture capital fund that has made 50% of its investments so far in its funds in women founders and in female led ventures. And I'm going to go ahead and leave it there on a very hopeful note, supporting our women entrepreneurs throughout this country. And I land.
That was awesome, Skull. I wish I had that like the ba 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 sound effect because that was a great Dateline. Um, before we go back to Mickey, when I pass the mic back to Mickey, I do want to ask the room one more question. We're hearing all of these powerful statements about women and how certain women have impacted others, right? But I want to wake it up a little bit. Like, why has it been when it comes to women and emotions, right? Why is that such a thing? Why, they can't, women are so emotional, they can't do this type of business, they can't run this, they can't run that. Why has emotion been such a statement word for us women? Anybody could pick the mic up for that.
And y'all, I'll go.
Well,
Thanks, Trace.
Women and men are wired differently, and women have the tendency to be intuitive. They have the tendency to think more of a gut kind of thing, more in tune with what's going on. You can call it a vibe, you can call it a feeling, you can call it whatever you want. And so, what's interesting to me is that although all of those things are very true about women, it's often discounted that we can be practical and we can make logical decisions and we can make the decisions that need to be made when you are the boss, when you are running the company, when you are the CEO. And I think, and I might drop a bomb here, but I think that it is an attempt by male counterparts, um, because it's one of the one things that a man can say about a woman where it may or may not get her hackles up. Oh, well, you're too emotional to make the decision. Oh my gosh, are you PMSing? Are you on your period this week? You know, those kind of things, which are completely and totally condescending. Because we all know that if men had periods or had to have babies, none of us would be here because the first man that ever delivered a child would have stopped the entire human race. So, you know, there's just a whole lot of women are intuitive. Men have the tendency to be more practical as far as that is, leaning into, and you know, we'll call it what it is. Their masculine energies versus the feminine energies that tend to be more touchy feely. But we all encompass. We all have masculine and feminine energies within us, and so it's really interesting to see how men are still trying to, and I did say men in general. I'm not that it's a general statement, guys, so don't come for me. But men in power are working very hard to keep that power. And part of it is trying to force the narrative that women are too emotional to be able to take leadership roles and lead well.
I totally agree with that, Patrice. I think another element is sometimes the emotional thing that's described as women is sometimes misgauged. It's really emotional intelligence that women are bringing to the table, and I don't think people always know how to characterize that. Everything's not data driven. You know, sometimes a woman does have to lean on her emotional intelligence, and that is the something special that she brings to the table. And we see that proven out as we have more women in leadership roles that are thriving in multiple industries right now.
I want
I
to add
also
to
want to
Can I
that.
add to that?
Oh, sorry.
go ahead, Miss Yvonne.
I want to add to
Okay.
that because, women are material, right? Maternal. So women are going to be a little bit more emotional than men. So I'm not going to say that they aren't. But that is the reason why when we find that the leadership gap is holding us back, but companies have reported, as a matter of fact, McKinsey reports that 30%, 30 plus percent women leaders outperform their peers by 48%. And yet women are being held back. And I agree with Patrice that it is a narrative that is pushed by men to keep women back, to keep women from breaking that glass ceiling, because women actually make great leaders. When women don't make great leaders is when women try to be like men. But when you have companies run by women who have that maternal side of the empathy side, especially these days, especially nowadays, you'll find that women are able to lead in a very, productive way and do a greater job. So it is time that that narrative, that be left behind, because it doesn't bode well for today's global environment where things are changing, and we need the empathy in organizations, because people think that everybody is the same, but each person is unique. So we need that empathy in organizations so that we lead our people better, because what obtained in the past is not going to obtain in the future. And the reports do show that women leaders do outperform their peers by 48%, and it is in McKinsey report. And I land there.
I have to
All right.
agree
Can
with
I
you guys.
add to
So,
that?
who was that? Was that Clubhouse or?
Dorothy. Yeah, Clubhouse.
Yeah, Dorothy, please share.
Okay. Well, I definitely want to add that, you know, by nature, women are nurturing. We're more nurturing. Um, and I think that doesn't take away from us being able to run a business, or for that matter, to even run a household. When God designed woman, he knew exactly what he was doing when he designed the woman. We were designed to be the helpmate for man. So when it comes to running a household, when it comes to running a business, it all balances itself out in some capacity. So when you're the CEO, you're running everything, you need that nurturing side, but then you also have to come with that stern side of you. So you're emotional, but yet you're in control of your emotions. And I think most women tend to be in control of their emotions. I love to see a CEO. I mean, I own my own business. So I'm speaking from experience. Besides, I'm also a mom, so I know what the first speaker, the speaker before me, was saying about that maternal instinct, or being women, being more maternal. We have a very nurturing side, and we tend to be more balanced also in our emotions. We just don't fly off the handle because God has graced us with balance to where we can go in and referee any situation with our amongst our children, amongst our siblings. There's just so many aspects to a woman that it just it I mean, I'm at a loss for words because I'm a woman, but I know what all I encompass, which makes a great CEO.
Dorothy, that was a powerful, powerful share. Thank you so much for coming off the mic and sharing that. Before I pass the mic back to Miki, I'm gonna just do a quick little reset. Welcome to the Debate the News. Today we are talking about International Women's Day. It's a special show, and right now we are on podcast land. So wherever you listen to your podcast, please, give it a share, give it a like, leave a review. We also have in each of the rooms up at the top a link, and that's our podcast. So if you click the link above, do the same, give some likes, give a review, download a few episodes. We would greatly,
No, not a
greatly
few. 10, 10,
10,
10, Danielle.
10, 10 is the magic number. 10 is the magic number. We would
Auto
greatly
download. Bam.
we would greatly appreciate it. But this has been a wonderful conversation thus far. And Miki, I'm gonna pass you the mic back.
Thank you so much for that, Danielle. That was such an awesome discourse, ladies. Everything that you shared, I do think that we do have some superpowers, and we know that everything is not all good. We are definitely going to leave some space for places where just society can improve, right? And definitely where we have some political issues going on, which I hate to just say political issues because it concerns so much more than that, right? But there are definitely there's still some work to do, right? There's a lot of work to do. So before we go into that, and we have some awesome speakers coming our way, including Chat, we're going to ask her about her feelings about International Women's Day, as well as her thoughts about women in the military. Love to hear from a veteran. Thank you all so much for your services and your sacrifice. Miss Patrice, are you with us? Because I wanted to ask you in particular, since we were mentioning emotions, how women perhaps could deal with a lot of the overwhelming thoughts that we have, right? Because we can be individuals or women being so nurturing, right? And just all of the ways that we tackle the day, right? Women are great at multitasking. I think it's just one of our superpowers, and it's inherent in us. And the reason I wanted to ask you that is because I have a little story. Went to the doctor one year for my annual. She gave me a call. She was very concerned. She's like, "Are you sitting? Did you drive?" I'm like, "Yes, what's going on? Oh my God, I'm dying." She's like, "No, your iron levels are low." And I'm like, "My
Hmm.
iron levels are low." And she's like, "Yes, you don't need to drive. Have you been feeling faint?" And honestly, I hadn't. I was probably 40 years old. And I had to go, y'all, to get intravenous iron. I had to do the IV with iron. And I did not realize it, but it was on like the third floor and I was running late. So I started to try to run up the stairs and I was so winded by the time I got to the front door. And I was like, oh my God. Then I realized something's wrong. So that lead in, Miss Patrice, is because the practitioners told me that as women, sometimes we don't even realize when something is wrong because we're so used to going, going, going. This woman told me, y'all, that my levels were so low, she was surprised that I was conscious. So I had to get the iron via the IV. That's how low I was. So I wanted to ask you, what are ways that we can overcome this as women just a little bit, because we're just so used to just going, 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 that sometimes we don't even realize, right, when we just need to take a pause and take a breather for ourselves.
That's a great question, Mickey. And I about 3.5, 4 years ago, I had to make a pivot. I truly felt like I was on the hamster wheel. I was running. I was successful in the job in which I was doing. I was very successful in the job in which I was doing. Keeping my home. I had my kids, husband. All of that goes. My parents had started aging, and I was having to spend more and more time kind of in caretaker mode for my father, and just all of these things were going on. And I think what is really important for women to remember, and I'm going to say this, and y'all are all going to roll your eyes and go, "Oh, geez, have I not heard this before?" Um, you have to take some time to take care of yourself. You have to make yourself a priority in your life. If you are not advocating for yourself, no one else is going to do that for you. And it's an easy thing to say. And I know it sounds so simple, but women, we are brought up and taught to be nurturers. I mean, that is, you become a big sister, you become mommy's helper, right? You start babysitting, you help around the house, you start with dinners. Mom's working, so you're going to make sure the kids are taken care of and homework. We are kind of put into what this caretaker mode is from a very young age. And so we learn, well, I've got to take care of, got to take care of my siblings and stuff. So I'll get to my stuff. And so that's hardwired early on in our lives. And, as we get into marriages, and as we bring children into the mix, and as we are building our businesses and working and what that looks like, we always go, okay, well, I'm going to get to that for me. And we do things like don't schedule our annual exams. Ladies, you should be having an annual. You should be doing a mammogram. You should be getting a pap every year. Um, heart disease is the number one killer of women in the United States of America. And a lot of that is attributed to stress. And so, it truly comes down to learning how to make yourself a priority. And, we've all heard the self care, self care, self care. And I get my massages and I get my nails done, and I get that's not all of what self care is about. It's about spending time with yourself, whether you're reading, whether you're meditating, whether you're sitting in prayer, whether you're hiking, going to the beach, getting back in nature, but spending some time just nurturing your own soul. Taking care of your spirit, making sure that you're staying rested. Are you exercising? Are you taking your vitamins? Get your blood work done. Ladies, when you hit 35 to 40, you're going to start hitting perimenopause, and the symptoms that come with menopause are absolutely batshit crazy. There was a point in time when I thought I was losing my freaking mind, and didn't realize what was going on until I slowed down enough to start to take care of me. So I know that's a lot to say take care of yourself, but when I say it's imperative, whether you spend time in the morning before you get out of bed and you meditate, you pray, you run through your day, you set your intention for the day. Believe it or not, that's a form of self-care. Learning how to say no and setting boundaries, that's a form of self-care. Learning how to hold people accountable to your boundaries, the boundaries that you set, and then you having the discipline to hold people accountable to those boundaries. Those are all ways to take care of yourself, because we can't be all things to all people, but we most definitely have to be all things to ourselves. So I hope, Miki, that answers the question, and I'm done speaking.
It did, and I know Makeda wanted to chime in. Miss Patrice, my goodness, taking care of your spirit. I absolutely love that, and setting your intention. How about this? My intention is to take care of my spirit. Ladies, if it's within your budget, you have my permission. Go ahead and get that pedicure tomorrow. go ahead and go to the stylist and get that hair done. Go ahead, get that cute little outfit. Take care of your spirit. I love that. I love that so much.
Do you
Makita,
know how
over
many
to
women I've coached that they will they we're gonna go shopping and they'll pick up a $20 shirt and they'll go, oh, I can't get that because I need to worry about, oh, I bet you that Sally would love this top, so I'm gonna put the $20 shirt up and I'm gonna buy Sally, my 15-year-old, this $60 top. And so we're always putting the needs of somebody else ahead of what our needs are. And so, it is just learning how to prioritize yourself in your life. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I had to get it out. I'm done speaking.
Yes, that baby will be fine. Get the cute little shirt. Get the cute little shirt. Now be aware that APR is high, ladies, because you know that the interest rates are high, but that's
I didn't
okay.
say charge the shirt. I
There
said
you
get the
go.
shirt. Let's be clear, Miki.
You heard it from Miss Patrice herself. She said, "Get the shirt," so we're good. Thank you so much for that, and I love the tone. That soothing voice, y'all. I love that International Women's Day special mod show. Debate the news. Makita, are you ready?
Yes. So I wanted to touch on the topic of the emotions for women really quick before we move on. When we're looking at, and I can't remember exactly how the question was phrased, but I know we were talking about how women are posed a lot of times with being emotional, right? And we over here on my end, we looked up what the opposite of emotional was, and it was apathetic, unemotional, and unresponsive. And I don't really think that anyone would want anyone in our community, not just women, to carry those characteristics on a regular basis, whether they are participating in life and business or recreational activities. So really, um, I just wanted to bring light to the fact that women are able to be balanced as well. And a lot of times it depends upon environment. We talked about how, women are brought up to be nurturers, and a lot of times men are brought up to be providers and to think about a lot of things that in general a lot of women are not brought up to think about. But again, that's not true for all populations, for all areas and groups and individuals, right? Because we do have certain people that have to deal with all things. If you were brought up by a single parent, a single mom, as I was, then she's trying to prepare me to be the woman in my home, thinking that I would have to deal with the same thing that she had to deal with. However, I've been married for 23 years and I've had to learn how to be balanced. And I think that that's something that women in general are able to do, because we do carry the load both in the home and outside of the home. And so if a woman has to go into the military, as I did, if a woman has to be in corporate, if a woman has to be in construction, as Cindy does, or real estate or politics. I believe that women are capable of being the nurturer, but also being able to be balanced and be a leader and do what is required. At any given point, it's just a matter of acquiring the skill set and then having time and space to practice those things and to learn how to operate with the counterparts that are going to be functional in those spaces. So if we're even looking at now for this particular podcast, we're figuring out our way here too, because this is not something that we generally do. However, in order to bring balance to the conversation, we have to do both. We have to take look at shining a light on the women, but also paying attention to the fact that this is debate the news, right? So I just wanted to highlight the fact that women are capable of doing so many things because we're multifaceted, but it's again because of what our generations have had to go through. They haven't always been able to think and consider where we would be today. So preparing us the same way that some of the men were prepared to take on the responsibilities outside of the home, in corporate, in politics, in the government, in the military, those are not always things that were considered before. As with our current generations, we are considering them now. And as we prepare ourselves to do this every single day, we also prepare our children. So I just excuse me, I wanted to bring light to that as well, Mickey.
No, thank you so much for that. And Makeda, thank you for your service as well and your sacrifice. I love the things that you said because sometimes, ladies, it can almost feel a little guilty, right? To take that me time. I was also a stay at home mom. I took time off because that's what I was taught when I was growing up that good women did, right? You got married, you went to school, you bought a house, you found a husband, you had children. And I definitely remember feeling quite guilty because I was able to be a stay-at-home mom, y'all, but it wasn't for me. And people were almost upset with me. And I remember, I had a very supportive husband at the time, but I just remember thinking, my goodness gracious, I had no idea that so many people would be so opinionated about specifically where a woman's place was, and almost feeling as if you were the worst mother in the world because you had a career and you wanted to return to that career. So, ladies, in 2025, let's give a shout out to choices. Amen. Let's give a shout out to having these discussions with our loved ones and paving and working out a way that works best for us and for our families, and sometimes just what's best for us and our partners in whatever manner that they show up in our lives, right? But let's leave shaming in the past, ladies, right? Because it is incredibly difficult whichever manner we choose just because we are women. So I'm especially proud that today when I talk to my nieces and nephews, since I have three boys, right, that I definitely can pour into them that essentially a lot of the things that they want they can most certainly have, and they're always going to have our love and support. And speaking of love and support, Chat, my girl Chat, are you here in the building? Because I definitely want to throw it to you and pick your brain a little bit for International Women's Day.
I'm here.
Chat is here. Chat is
Bow, bow, bow,
here.
bow.
Bum, 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 bum. Chat is here. Chat, my girl, in the military,
Mm,
a woman, a nonprofit, right?
mm-hmm.
Republican Party leadership, tell us what are your thoughts, because I want to hear what you think, and then we are going to spend these last minutes, ladies, the next half hour talking about where do we need to move forward, what is the strategy, because y'all, there are some things going on we are not in alignment with, and we are going to have that discussion. So, chat, your thoughts. Throwing that mic to you.
Whoa. So many thoughts. One being I'm hungry and it's 10 o'clock. The other thing though I want to say is happy International Women's Day to my sisters in the room. Shout out to you all. And thank y'all for being amazing women, mothers, sisters, nieces, aunties, Gigi's, grandmas, and all the things. Um, so one thing that I thought about today when I think of women, I thought about how some of my most challenging moments in the workforce have been with women. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. I don't know what y'all have talked about before I got here, but I'm gonna get to the nitty gritty of that. And not from a negative place. Because it was a learning lesson for me. One thing being is that me being a military veteran, me being in the army, being a leader in the army, um, as a civilian, that transition was rough, right? I'm used to being straightforward, which I still am, but used to being very blunt, abrasive, right? Tough, very rigid, militaristic, all of those things, which the military kind of strange. And I was in the army, so other branches maybe not so much. But the military kind of strains the femininity out of you, right? It pulls it out of you in a way, right? They want all soldiers to be the same. So they break you down to build you up, right? If you cry, that's bad. Okay, emotions are bad in the military. You're losing your military bearing. And so in the military, I was painfully aware of my femininity, painfully aware, in a way that which a lot of women, when they get home from the military, that transition can be a little rough, especially for mothers. Now, part of my nonprofit, we do help women veterans with that. That that part of being a mother and being a leader, right? Coming from the military, very rigid, to now you're coming home to a family that moved forward without you, a family that you may not be familiar with, but you have to nurture these children and your husband, and you're in a totally different place mentally, and emotionally. And so, getting out of the military, that transition was a bit rough for me. So when I went into the workforce, I was in sales. I did very well. I sold apartments, y'all, and did very well with male clients. Because I'm matter of fact, bottom line, here are the numbers. This is what you're getting. The women were like, "Good Lord, lady, you loud? Can you slow down? And I want you to make me feel good." And I'm like, I don't have time for fluff. But what I had to learn rather quickly was that meeting people where they are did not take away from me. Right. And so I had to learn how to soften those edges. Being a Southern woman is one thing, but being a veteran and a Southern woman, they kind of clash. And so the thing about transitioning and kind of what I wanted to talk about to the ladies in the room is we operate in this dichotomy of life, right? We have to be, sister, right? For some of you have to be mother to your children. You have to be kind and nurturing. And then on the other hand, you got to go to work and you got to be the boss. You have to tell men what to do. You have to tell other women who, and let's be honest, some women don't want to be told by other women what to do. Okay. And definitely men, but you got to go to work and be one way, and then you come home and you have to strip that mask off and put on, the mask of being a nurturer and a mother. And so a lot of times in dealing with the dichotomies of our lives, transitioning can wear on you, right? But the great thing about it is we get to show different sides of ourselves. So I looked at those moments of transition and those dichotomies as strengths, right? As superpowers, right? So if I got to show up and be a hard ass, I can do so. But if I have to soften for my man, I can do that too. And so, women, we are just amazing. We do so much. We wear so many hats. We are so versatile and powerful, and flexible in a lot of ways, and some good ways for some of the fellas. But a lot of us really go through life and we don't necessarily tell ourselves and tell each other how amazing we think each other, how much amazing we think we are, and especially to our sisters. So I started with saying a lot of the friction I had in the workforce was from women. It was because I wasn't honest with myself and how I showed up. And once I was honest, right, and I realized that in the military I could only show up one way, but as a civilian, quote unquote, I could show those other parts of me, right? The empathetic part, the sympathetic part, the kind, the sweet. I can show those other emotions. I got to a better place with myself and a more peaceful place with my sisters. So I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Oh, I love that. The empathy and realizing that you showed up differently. You couldn't show up differently in one place, like that military aspect, right? And then realizing that you had the ability to show up differently. I really, really, really love that because a lot of times, ladies, I believe that, and this is a good segue into our discussion, lending itself to what's going on today and a lot of the struggles that we still have as women in society is that we're pigeonholed, right? And a lot of times it's seen as, oh, you're just a mother, or oh, you're just a single woman, right? And remember, there were so many labels that were ascribed to us in the past, such as, does anyone remember reading about the Scarlet Letter? I certainly remember reading, yes, I'm from the South and I read Gone with the Wind, where the ladies, the ladies of the night, so to speak, wore red. And I remember as a child growing up in Southern Louisiana that we could not wear bright red lipstick and we could not wear bright red nail polish because of what apparently that was some sort of a secret, secret society of women, right? Everything from from someone being a widow, and not just being a widow to a spinster. Remember when they used to say that if you weren't married by a certain age, then you were a spinster and you were only good for educating children or being a governess and so forth and so on? I believe that society still has a lot of those labels, such as loud. Jasmine Crockett is certainly going through that. She is being assigned labels simply because she's presenting herself in a different way that perhaps society does not agree with, right? Um, they still say that, chat, absolutely, including some other terms. And I think we have more terms for the ladies. So, Makeda, are you available? Because we definitely wanted to discuss, right, that everything is not all roses, that there's absolutely room for growth. And I wanted to discuss, ladies, no matter what side of the aisle that you're on, there may just be some things that we need to take care of. And I'm going to open it with this before throwing to Makeda, the pay gap. The pay gap needs to be the same, right? We are not paid the same as women, from the C suite to if you're in corporate America, to if you are a teacher, to if you are a banker, to if you are a scientist. And the wealth that lends itself to the wealth gap. And honestly, women are the ones who cultivate the financial household. Now, that's been way even in the past, right? Even in a traditional home where the man worked. I believe Makita was saying that some of us, a lot of men were reared or indoctrinated, as I like to say, to be providers and protectors, but it was typically the women that control the purse. We're Congress, ladies, right? We're Congress. We've done the allocations for millennia, right? We've taken care of the households. We've done the shopping. We've taken care of the expenses, so forth and so on. We're actually quite good at it. Do you know, ladies, that you actually make better investors than men when you actually pick your allocations and do your investments up to the tune of 0.4%? And if you don't think that makes a difference, let's just say one of you may be able to retire a couple of years earlier than someone else. So shout out to the ladies, right, for having a little bit of that financial edge. So Makita, are you ready to have this political conversation about concerns and things that are going on and rights that have been taken away from us?
Yes, Mickey. Now, where this conversation goes is really up to everyone in the room because, we're going to introduce the topic. And if you would like to have the conversation, it's open to both the men and the women in the room. And to everyone listening on the other app and in podcast land, we want to make sure that you're considering that we're not just celebrating International Women's Day in a way that just says that everything is great. We're also celebrating it and recognizing that we have come a long way and we still have a long way to go. So, there's a celebration for just being happy and giving kudos and giving roses and flowers to those who need it. But also, I think when you celebrate and you really cherish things, you pay attention to the actual climate that is being cultivated. So for us as women, we do want to pay attention to where we are now and what does it look like for us in the future, because I think it was Danielle who asked about our kids. Right. And if we have children, what type of legacy do we want to leave? But even if you don't have children, you do have to consider what type of legacy are you leaving for the generation that comes up behind you, whether you have nieces and nephews, right? Because while we as women contribute to the world, the gentlemen do too. So we want to make sure that we're looking at how our impact will. What will our impact be actually? So,
Could I say
in
something before I go to bed?
yeah.
Because I was the United Nations representative for for National Council of Women of the United States, and International Women's Day was founded to stop women from being abused around the world. That's the roots of it. It was founded for equity and gender equity among women. And what's going on right now in our leadership, we are so freaking dumbed down that I cannot stay in this conversation.
No, no, no. Wait a minute. Hold on, because we're actually pivoting into that right now. What's your name? I understand you're on the other app. If you want to give your name, but we are actually about to take a pivot. into some of the things that women are actually facing. But that's why I was saying what I was saying is we want to give that celebration part. We were looking back first, and now we are actually about to shift because this is Debate the News, right? We're about to look at some of the actual struggles and things that women are facing. And if you would like to contribute and have that conversation, you can feel free to do so. So let me introduce some of these topics, and then we can go ahead and we can jump in. Okay, so don't run. If you want to talk, stay here because we're
That
here
was
for it.
That's Dr. Hope.
Okay, Dr. Hope. So we are here for it. And thank you, Jonathan. Did you have anything else you want to say, Jonathan, before I go?
No, thank you.
Okay. All right. So in 2025, some of the top concerns that we as women are facing, we are facing gender based violence, and that is going into a lot of different topics. Again, I'll open up the floor, but I'm going to introduce some of these things, and you can feel free to chime in. Um, we have a concern for reproductive health care. We're looking at the economic inequality, the lack of representation in many different areas, but also in leadership, right? Because there is a concern that there will be a lack of female leaders. We do deal with systematic discrimination. We have to take a look at what type of rollbacks will there be in the rights of women across the globe and in various regions. Here in America, we do have to pay attention that there is the federal law, federal regulation, but then the states also have the ability to do rollbacks on us as well. Right. We do have to look at, even in the military, what rights are women given, what type of things are causing women to be held back. There was a point where women were going to be put on the front line, right? And that was a change that wasn't in place before. When we look at inside of the home, we women do have to face a concern now, because even inside of our chat here, someone said that they don't like it when women try to be men. But when women of the 21st century don't have to choose whether they want to be in the home or out the home in order to be 100% themselves, there is still this concern of, is a woman feminine enough or is she too masculine? So these are topics as well. And then in politics, is it okay for women to actually voice how they feel, how we feel about the things that are happening in politics, whether we are for a candidate or against the candidate? And what type of impact does it have on our stature, whether that is social, economic, and even relational? If we open our mouths and say the same thing that men say, are we still going to have the same opportunity? So that leads to equal opportunity. Is it really there for us as women? If we want to talk about any reproductive rights, we can talk about those. We can talk about the pay gap, and we can talk about displacement. So that is me opening up the door. Again, I'm not choosing any particular topic, but as you said, Dr. Hope, you can feel free to chime in because, again, there are a lot of different things that we're dealing with. In the world in general. One thing I do want to say is a big concern for me in 2024, 2025 was the fact that there were laws being passed in different states that said it was okay for young girls to be married under 16 to cousins, and that there was nothing that anyone could do about it. So, a big concern for me is that as I see the laws changing, I see women and girls losing rights to their own individuality, the choices that they are able to make. And I'm beginning to wonder what type of world is being set up for us as we move, and our children as we're moving forward. Anybody want to chime in?
Well, I'd like to hear from Dr. Hope. And Makeda, you did an excellent job of listing a lot of the concerns, more than concerns, issues, things that dampen our success, things that harm our success, that harm our growth. So thank you so much, because that was a full and comprehensive list that kind of lets us know that although we did intentionally start out celebrating International Women's Day, debate the news by giving thanks and sharing stories and giving grace, that we are well aware as women, right, that that our job is not done yet, right? So thank you so much. Dr. Hope, are you available on Clubhouse? Because we would love to hear your thoughts.
She
She
left.
actually away from the stage.
Okay, well, I was ready for the spice. What I will say is that, and I've been yapping this whole time. I would love to hear some new voices on this, right? Is that I think that sometimes when we're facing with these issues, I will say that there is an age discrimination, right? The way that my grandmother felt about these things are very different than the way that my boomer mother feels about these things, are completely different than the way that my millennial sister feels about these things versus my Gen Z nieces and nephews, right? So sometimes I do think that in this endeavor to bridge those age gaps, sometimes we just have to forge ahead and pivot, just like we did with this conversation, and kind of, look for what matters to us the most. I definitely agree, Makeba. The protection of women needs to be a huge priority around the world, and I just don't think that we're there yet. The economic disparities that continue to harm us, since women do tend to be the primary caregivers around the world, um, that could help eradicate child poverty, that could help eradicate a lot of the violence against women, because sometimes it's a financial situation of whether or not a woman can leave a particular situation that does not benefit her or her family. I'm not sure how we can move around politically with these things, but I certainly hope that one day we are able to achieve a change that we all know is needed and necessary. Anyone else want to chime in on that? Makita gave us a great lead.
I did
I'll
want,
chime. Oh, go ahead, Wendy.
okay, I did want to step in on that note because you are absolutely right. I 100% agree with you on that. That, let's face it, guys, but financial freedom is exactly that, financial freedom. The ability to support yourself, not depend on anyone else. When I say that, um, you are free to um, be in business, be a partner in a marriage where the finances don't make a play, right? And I had this in personal experience myself where even though I was making a substantial amount of money, um, my previous husband was making more money. And, a lot of times that comes into play, especially in lower economic, um, uh, I don't know, where the woman is staying at home, she's taking care of the kids and whatever. And then the man is the breadwinner, if you will. And so, and this is not always, I'm just saying, but a lot of the times this is the way it is. Guys, you have to be financially literate, and if at all possible, try to be financially independent so that that does not become a factor. And I'm not speaking to everyone. There's a lot of men out there extremely supportive, and I've seen a lot of them on this platform tonight. But in general, I would say, always have that backup plan so that, you have the power. Anyway, this is kind of a women's empowerment night, right? That's what I'm taking it as for tonight. We in Credit Ninja, Daphne, Christine, and I host a show every week, and we in Chatter, and we host these people making money around the world on teaching you different ways to be financially independent. And I didn't want to make it about that tonight, but so many women need that advice and they didn't get it. Maybe, I don't know, I feel like the men, a lot of times these things are passed down to them, and the women are just now catching up to that. They really, really are. And I will say this, I love the strong women. Rachelle, wherever you are, I totally have 100% different political views from you, but kudos to you, girl. You are killing it out there. So many women on this platform doing that. And anyway, I'm going to land it for now. I wish Credit Ninja was on here to back me up. But guys, follow us on our channel as well. This was totally not about trying to gain followers on our channel. But I will say this, pay attention, get financially literate, be able to take care of yourself. And I'm going to land it there.
Well, Wendy, I want to ask you, since you are here, as you are looking at the different things that are happening across the United States or in the news, are there any things that seem to be alarming to you that you would like to give voice and space to, especially since you're talking about, having us pay attention and be financially literate and things like that?
Well, so many things that, I mean, of course, worry me about financial literacy and current events. Um, People across the board losing their jobs for, just for instance, the government jobs. Okay. People that thought that they were going to have a job, that they were on E Street with that, they didn't have to worry about that. And guess what? They wake up one day and hey, uh, they may be losing their job today. Current administration has decided that their job is not uh, viable, if you will. And this happened to me. Um, in a job I previously was in, I actually was a nurse anesthetist. I did anesthesia for open heart surgery. During COVID, they shut down all of the elective cases in hospitals around the country in order to preserve supplies and manpower for people with COVID and consequential surgeries. So, with that, I was sent home and I was a single mom at the time. Luckily, I had been building a side business as real estate investor, real estate agent, and that happened to my side gig suddenly became my main breadwinner. Okay, who would have ever thought in a million years that being in the healthcare profession that job would be in jeopardy? Okay, so this is my thought on that for current events. Look at the government jobs right now, who they thought that they were on E Street until they died, okay, retired or died, whatever. And then bam, you're hit out of nowhere with that. Guys, you need multiple streams of income. Plus, I mean, you need more than one stream of income. Always have one other backup. And so, yeah, that's my biggest take home today, that even when you think that your day job is so secure, I would say always have some type of backup plan. And actually, Credit and I have a room, and Daphne as well, on Sunday talking about that. It's on Credit's channel this week, but we're kind of
So,
switching it up.
Wendy, I'm not
Yeah, go
quite
ahead.
sure how they handle, because we are recording, we're doing a podcast. I'm not quite sure how they handle us sharing on the rooms. So I'm gonna pass that really quick to Jonathan if he can just let us know how we do that, and then we can keep on going. You
What was
there,
that question?
Jonathan?
What was that
Well, I
question again?
I just wanted to know, for those of us who are here on Chatter or the other app and have rooms, is that something that we share about during the podcast, or do you want us to just hold off
No,
on that?
well, if it's a woman, we can do on Women's Day. Yeah, we're gonna make sure that any women can go
All
ahead and
right.
share. Yep.
So, Wendy, since you were sharing, you want to go ahead and let us know what the topic is. I know you mentioned Sunday, and then give us the information about that.
Yes, actually, and sorry, Jonathan, I wasn't trying to send everybody out to my room. I was just mentioning that Credit and Daphne and I were also doing it's a side hustle central. it's typically on my money channel, but this week it's on credit. But basically, it is about making sure that you, even though you have a regular day job, whatever it may be, your 9 to 5, it is smart to have a quote unquote side hustle. You never know when that main job is going to um, go away, guys, and just paying attention to that anyway. I think that the main part of that was multiple streams of income. And with that, I'm going to land. Sorry, I didn't mean to get off on the. I know we're talking about various things with women, and that was just one thing I wanted to bring up.
I wanted
I
to
don't
jump
think you need
in
to
and
be
piggyback.
apologetic.
Yeah, me
One
too.
second,
When you're done,
Rachel.
Okay,
Rachel.
okay.
One second.
Hey,
I don't
Chad.
think you need to be apologetic about it, Wendy. It does shed a light on the fact that, while everyone is talking about the layoffs and just considering that they are federal employees,
Hmm.
they're not really thinking about the different dynamics, right? Because we've had people in this conversation in this room who were raised by single moms that may not have realized that their mom could have been one who was in a position and had a job and may not have had a second stream of income to rely upon to take care of them back in the day. So I think it really sheds a light upon that. And then you also giving space to say you need to have multiple streams of income. This is what we face today, because even for those who are dealing with domestic violence or living in some other situation, they do have to think about all opportunities and all options, right? And it's so important that we have conversations like this. So that's I just want to check with Jonathan to make sure that this is a way that it was fine to handle this conversation that way. But I don't think there's a reason to be apologetic about it. We have to talk about it. We have to make space for it. So thank you, Rachel.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Wendy, Wendy for the shout out. Appreciate it. Um, the reason that what she said is so important are for several things. Women, through what's going on with the current administration, are being attacked on multiple fronts, which would basically indicate why you need multiple streams of income. Number one was just talking about the basic autonomy of our own bodies. That's being attacked. Number two, look at how the education system is being attacked. Who actually go and attain the most education? It's women. Okay, that's being attacked. Look at all the federal employees, as has been spoken about, that have been laid off their jobs. The majority of those are women. Mostly women go into the federal workspace, depending on what sector, but cumulatively, it's mainly women. All of a sudden, their needs are cut off. They don't have a job anymore. So they're being affected along, with the ability to perform in their households, take care of their kids if they're single mothers. So that's being affected and what have you. So definitely, just piggybacking off what she said is actually correct and true. And if everything goes well, I'll be in that room tomorrow because it's important for everyone, because everything that has been done historically to make things a little better for women, to give us an upper hand, even the ability to get specific grants that are geared towards women, right? These things are being attacked right now, taken away, and there goes the ability for us to be able to forge forward, to have an upper hand, to do better and do more. And that's all I have to say. I'm gonna throw it the chat.
Okie dokie. Thank you, Rachel. Yeah, I just want to, in the spirit of Dr. Hope, I won't be as abrasive. But I just wanted to kind of talk about, and y'all may have done this at the top of the room, but what International Women's Day is, right? It is in the word in the title, it's global. Okay, it's not just America. Okay, it's not just North America, South America, whatever. It is global. It is particularly around women's suffrage, right? So social, economic, cultural, and political advancements of women. Now in America, I know women, we have our gripes and our complaints, but I wanted to look up were what women across the world were still fighting for. and to look at that. So there is still gender-based violence and oppression, in particular in the Democratic Republic of Congo. I'm just giving examples. Women in the DRC experience widespread sexual violence, and it's often used as a weapon of war. Armed groups target women with rape, forced labor, and human trafficking. In Iran, women in Iran continue to fight against oppressive laws such as the mandatory hijab requirement. In Afghanistan, I'm sorry, in Saudi Arabia, I believe they got the right to vote. Women received the right to vote in 2015. So there's been some reform, but that was just 10 years ago. Right, in India, despite legal protections, women continue to experience economic disparities, workplace discrimination, and a lack of access to property rights. In Latin America, across countries like Mexico and Argentina, the femicide rates are alarmingly high. Women are killed simply for being women, with perpetrators often escaping justice. um Child marriage, that's a thing. And like in some countries, women are girls age 8 are being married to men, and because their families are in economic distress. Okay. Yemen has one of the highest rates of child marriage. You also have human trafficking in Eastern Europe, and Ukrainian women fleeing the war were at high risk of being trafficked and being exploited. And so we hear, America, not to say that we still don't have something to fight for, because we do, but we have sisters that are across the world. Our sisters are fighting just to live, to breathe, not to be violated, and all of that. So I just wanted to add that into the context, Makeda and Mickey. Thank you.
Chad, it sounds, I'm so glad that you shared those things. It sounds to me like what you're saying is that this is a conversation we don't need to just have on March the 8th, that needs to be continued and had in so many different ways, so that not only can we highlight these things, but we can begin to really discuss them and possibly have people in our midst that can do something about it. That's what it sounds like to me. Danielle, are you here with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to see if there were any last minute, because we're gonna close out shortly. Was there anything last minute that people wanted to share before we close out for the podcast?
Yes, this is Miki. I just
Yes.
wanted to highlight that the origins of International Women's Day, as we said, has roots in the labor movement and the fight for working class women's rights. The seeds were sown in 1908 when 15,000 women marched in New York City demanding better pay. That rings a bell. Shorter hours and voting rights. At least we have those, ladies. The following year, the Socialist Party of America designated February 28th as the first National Women's Day to honor the garment worker strike of 1907. And now we are in March and we have an entire month. So I'm a history person. Just wanted to shout out that origin. Thank you to those ladies in 1908 who got together. And now we can have digital conversations. We can come together collectively from all parts of the globe and have these discussions to further improve the condition of women throughout the world. So thank you guys so much. I'm going to give it back to Danielle.
Actually, before, excuse me just for a second, before we hand it back over to Danielle to close out because she's rocking this fucking house tonight as well, I wanted to give a special shout out to Mickey. I texted you, excuse me, what do you call that? The back channel. I just sent you my number on the back channel. And I would just want to say, especially, listen, you guys, tonight was phenomenal. We got to hear so many voices that don't get to be heard because a lot of us other ones are speaking. And so I want you to know that I intentionally wanted to make sure that we heard all these beautiful women in here tonight. Every single one of you were phenomenal. I love you. I appreciate you. I don't want to speak for Jonathan, but I know that he has the same sentiment. And listen, that was a hell of a show. And I just wanted to say, really, Mekey, thank you so much. We've got a spot for you, and we've got a spot for a lot of other ladies here tonight. And we wanted to see, kind of what happened organically. And it was a beautiful, beautiful turnout tonight. So I just want to say thank you again, you guys. Happy International Women's Day from Debate the News. And with that, I'm going to hand it back over to my love, Danielle, to close us out. Thank you again, guys.
Yeah, I want to second that sentiment. Mickey, you did a wonderful job, and all the women that contributed tonight. It was a great, great conversation. And once again, guys, if you haven't yet, please click that link up at the top. It's our podcast. Click on it, leave a review, give a like, share it on your socials, download 10 episodes. Do that, please, to support us. Where this incredible community is building in all different types of ways, and it's not just because of JB, it's not just because of Daphne, it's because of this incredible community that supports us. So please do that for us, and thank you guys so much.
That part, 10 episodes and the whole freaking community. Every single one of you rock. Thank you again for coming every single night to support myself and Jonathan and DTN and everyone here. We love you. Thank you.